right. It is officially that time. I've been waiting 2 years to say that March Madness is here, and it is. And Awesemo.com, we are excited to bring you the bracket show, the bracket preview. We are going to fill out a bracket, me, and more importantly, my partner in crime here, Matt Gajewski. I know I can speak for you. How excited are you for Friday?
Oh man, just pumped. It's been so long since we've been waiting for this. The schedule change was a little interesting, but I'm happy that the games, even the play-in games tomorrow, I'm excited for it all.
Yeah, we got the play-in games. Certainly, we're going to see who moves on to take on those 6 seeds, who takes on those 1 seeds. But we've got a bracket here, and more importantly than that, though, our friends at Monkey Knife Fight are doing something really exciting. I want to get that right off the top before we dive in. So as we know that March Madness is here, and we have partnered up with Monkey Knife Fight to bring you guys a free bracket challenge with $2,500 in cash prizes plus 100 free Awesemo Plus Platinum subscriptions with a free year, $1,000 value going to the grand prize winner. All you got to do, it's very simple. You go to aussie.moe/monkeymania to sign up and fill out your bracket. More importantly than that, though, just check the link in the show description for more information how to enter. It's very easy. Free bracket challenge. The top 355 places are going to get paid out. Give it a shot. And when you get over there, make sure to use the promo code Awesemo to get up to $50 first match deposit and go try it out. I absolutely recommend that. It's a free roll. Why not? So, man, we've got it. The bracket is here. It is blank. We're just going to go perfect. You know, Warren Buffett offers that $1 trillion. If we do it on the show, that's got to help our, I was talking about my Twitter game right before the show. That's got to help the Fowler account if we just nail the entire bracket, right?
I think so, even though there's probably no coming back for me on Twitter.
Yeah, well, if you're redeemable, we'll see after you took a shot at Loyola. We'll see if you can get back in the fans' good graces. Chat, I see all the regulars. A lot of people from the golf streets, a lot of people from the CBB streets. If you could hit that like button, we would appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, obviously helps us out. We've got shows on shows on shows. I will be on a golf show in a couple hours, and I can't wait. But are you ready to get into this? You want to start making some picks?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, we are going to start in the West with the Zags and the barn burner of, more importantly, I bet Appalachian State in that first game. So I hope it's going to be them. Do you have a quick take on that playing game before the Zags just dominate whoever?
Well, Appalachian State is a pretty horrific team after they were 7th in the Sun Belt. They were 0-3 in their most important games, Quad 1 and Quad 2, but they ended up winning the tournament, securing this bid. So I don't know. They face a Norfolk State team that hasn't played anybody either. I was waiting to actually bet this game on the other side for Norfolk State just because Appalachian State keeps getting money, but I don't think either of them has a chance against Gonzaga.
That's correct. So we're gonna click in the Zags, but don't hate on Appalachian State tomorrow. I think they'll get it done. All right. Moving on to the 8-9 game, we're going to dig a little deeper here because that one didn't require anything. Right before the show, Oklahoma, another victim of what's probably going to be a theme here. How big is that a loss? They're missing their second leading scorer now. Does that shift the table? Were you leaning Mizzou? How do you approach this 8-9?
I was leaning Oklahoma's direction just because they're such a strong team with their interior defense. They really try to get opposing teams to shoot threes against them, and that is not Missouri's strength. Missouri is a very difficult three-point shooting team here. I do think that loss is important, but luckily Oklahoma's already been through some COVID issues this year. A lot of their star players have already had it, including like Brady Manick, and that allowed them to develop some nice depth with Harkless and Gibson. So they've already been in this situation. I still think they hold advantages here. So I do prefer Oklahoma.
All right. This is a toss-up game. I don't really have a strong take here, so I'm going to side with you. I can live with the Sooners. I don't have any horrible things to say. They don't tilt me into oblivion. It's a game that, of course, we'll get to the Sweet 16 in a bit. It's not going to really matter. So we'll go with Oklahoma there. Go a little chalk to start the bracket. Moving down, here we go. It's going to be bad, man. But Creighton Blue Jays are my guilty pleasure. I can't quit this team. We've talked about it all year. Controversy aside, they're just an erratic team. They can't shoot free throws. They lose games they shouldn't. They looked great against UConn. They get blown out by Georgetown. They play UCSB, who I assume, Matt, that most people really don't know anything about coming out of the Big West. What do you make of the always sneaky 5-12 here?
I think a lot is being made of the 5-12 matchups, and you'll see UCSB picked a lot as a sleeper. I don't think that makes sense. I think people just watch Creighton's championship game against Georgetown and they haven't seen their full body work, which is actually really impressive. I thought they would be seated a little bit higher than this. UCSB actually has pretty good efficiency metrics across the board, but again, they just haven't played anybody all season. If we look to their schedule, we know this team did win the Big West, but they went 2-4 in quad 2 games and they didn't even play a quad 1 game. So that's really how people that make these brackets measure the strength of schedule for these teams. Quad 1 games being the most important. So seeing them playing 0 and then going 2-4 in quad 2 games, you're really just dealing with a huge discrepancy in overall talent and competition.
Great. Creighton, for better or worse, is going to determine my fate with a lot. I'm not bouncing them. I actually already bet them. So I
bet them too.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. We need to stick together. Don't be betting the other side of Appalachian State. You're killing me here.
I didn't bet it yet. I'm waiting.
Just chill out. Give it another look. All right. Moving on. 4-13. The Who's, they got COVID issues. Ohio steamed early. That line has been torpedoed. It's dropping and dropping. I saw it around 7. I don't know where it is right now, but you can check oddshopper.awesemo.com if you want to get the latest there. Great tool. Firmly recommend it. But what do we do with this game? Does Ohio have a chance?
I don't really think they do. I think the biggest thing will be the COVID issues for Virginia. They're not going to have practice much. They're just traveling down late in the week. And this Ohio team is pretty dangerous. They have a superstar in Jason Preston, who that's basically who everyone is talking about with this Ohio team. But Ohio does lack size, and they're going against a Virginia team that is very adept inside. You have Jay Huff and you have Hauser in there, and I just don't see any way Ohio can really compete against them. No matter what happens, Virginia is going to play this game to their pace. So Ohio might try to pace it up, but we've seen this for years with Virginia. It's just impossible to do so. So if we look to the defensive side for Virginia, their bigs, I think they do get it done.
Yeah, a clash of styles. Ohio wants to play fast. They've played extremely fast. They were impressive in the MAC. Not that that's a great league, but I did think they hit their stride there. Can they give them a game? Yes. Ultimately, though, we're starting out a little chalky, but that's all right. I'm going to go with Virginia as well here. All right. USC, they get the winner of the playing game, Drake or Wichita. Is it too much sides with Mobley on the inside, or do either of those teams cause problems?
They don't. They're actually horrible matchups for USC because neither team has any size. The tallest starter between both teams is 6'8", and that's Morris Udeze for Wichita State. If you look at the Drake side, they don't have any starters above 6'6". So Mobley is just going to absolutely demolish whoever makes it to the second round, or the first round, but after the play-in game.
Yeah, I'm with you. USC, pretty easy for me. I don't know why I think the Pac-10 is secret, or Pac-10. Pac-12 is secretly good, and that could be a big problem when we get to some of these teams later. All right, another trendy pick, another COVID situation, Eastern Washington, Kansas. I saw it around 10.5. I don't know exactly where it is right now. Jayhawks, of course, have some problems. They're missing a couple guys. What's the latest on that, and will it matter?
So it looks like as long as McCormick passes through COVID protocol, he needs to test negative every single day. He can play on Friday as long as he's negative across the board. And then they can get Jalen Wilson back for their second round game as long as he follows the same procedure and continues to test negative. So initially during the week, we thought that this might be a situation where they'd miss both. They still might. We don't know. I hit it at 10.5. This is betting on the Eastern Washington side because they are a dangerous team. They played some pretty significant competition to begin the year in non-conference play. And they're a pretty good shooting team with, some senior leadership. I think they could give Kansas a run. So I think this maybe is a sleeper pick to look at, but I think the Jayhawks, just with their talent, could still overall just get it done here.
So what do you want to do? You want to put an upset in there, or you want to stick to the blueprint and go Kansas?
Typically the way I approach these brackets, unless I'm playing in like the DraftKings is offering $1 million up, and there's different styles of challenges they have. They have a survivor. They have a huge bracket pool with like over 100,000 people. That's where I'll try to pick upsets like this. But if you're doing a bracket with like your home league, you have 20 people or something, I'm typically not trying to get crazy with upsets in the first round and looking more towards some of that later on. So I guess for me, it's still Kansas.
I like it. Let's move it on. Let's do Jayhawks and keep it going here. The Ducks, VCU. Weird team. I watch a lot of A10 because my boys are in there. I like Bones. They're a good team, but Oregon is very difficult. What do you do with this matchup? I think this is one of the toughest and most competitive first-round matchups on the board.
It is. I actually like this for Oregon a bit here. They're a team that's coming in as the 7 seed. They were dealing with a slew of injuries throughout the year. Duarte's been hurt, Richardson's been hurt, Eugene Omaruri, and now they're all finally healthy. So they are finally returning all 5 starters on this team. Since they've had them healthy, we've seen them just wreck some of the best Pac-12 competition. A conference that you like, a conference that I like, one I think is a very underrated conference. I don't think Oregon really has any trouble getting by VCU.
Yeah, I mean, VCU, listen, they live and die by that press. They want to be aggressive. They want to force turnovers. They're 9th in the country in turnovers per game for their opponents. I think the backcourt can handle that for Oregon, and I do think they will survive and advance. All right, last one. My boys, the Antelopes, the Fighting Bryce Drews. Is there any chance in the world that they can hang with Iowa?
There's a chance. So the thing with Grand Canyon, they obviously don't play anybody. They win the Western Athletic Conference. They did play one Q1 game, quad one. It was against Colorado. They lost. They didn't play any Q2 games. But this team actually matches up kind of well against Iowa. They have good size on the interior. They play fairly good defense overall. But again, we just have to adjust that for level of competition. Iowa more than likely gets through Grand Canyon with no trouble whatsoever. But if you are going to see one of these crazy matchups between one of these two 15s and maybe, 14, 13 seeds, this is one I think where the matchup is intriguing enough, but I still do think Iowa rolls.
I wish that they were a 14. I'm not going against Iowa here. And I think ultimately just too much shooting, too much firepower, but Grand Canyon has bigs. They've got some players. Midgard can play. I just, ultimately there's a talent discrepancy. So, all right. We got the West down. We'll move to do you want to go Sweet 16 right now and go to the Final Four and get that done? Let's do it that way, actually. You want to do that?
Yeah, let's ride.
Okay. So back up to the top. We've got the Zags. We've got Oklahoma. Are they going to get bounced, or is this where Gonzaga kind of, lays down the law?
Gonzaga's going to lay down the law. Correct. If you look at Oklahoma's schedule recently, they have not been playing well down the stretch either. They've dropped a bunch of games in conference play.
Yeah. Listen, I agree. I think, that I'll put it like this. It's a pick 'em against Mizzou. They may not even be there. It's going to be a competitive game. Gonzaga absolutely rolls through. All right. Blue Jays, Cavaliers. Can Creighton speed them up? Do you think that matters? Can they win at that pace? Can Zagorowski get it done? I think you know where I lean. Are you with me with Creighton?
I do actually lean towards Creighton in this spot. I don't think they're going to be able to speed up Virginia. Nobody really can. The only team I've really seen have success do that is, interesting enough, Gonzaga, who scored nearly 100 points there. But if you look at what Creighton does well, I think good shooting teams can have good days against Virginia. You have Zagorowski, who's shooting 40% from three. Even guys like Damian Jefferson and Mitch Ballack, they all shoot the three really well. And they have 5 starters that can really rotate around the court and play a number of positions, which I think is important against a team like Virginia.
Why can Ballack not shoot free throws? I don't understand that.
Ballack hasn't been shooting as well this year. He was like a sharpshooter last year for this team.
Oh, I know. Disturbing. Creighton, listen, I've watched a lot of them. They are 300 plus in the country in free throw percentage. In these tight games, you need to be better. If they can shore that up, I do think that they get this done. And I'm going to pick them as well. All right, moving down to the bottom of the West. Jayhawks, Trojans, weird game. Again, is the size too much? Depending on who Kansas has, where do you go in this one?
If Kansas doesn't have one or both their bigs, I think it's a huge mismatch in favor of USC.
I can live with that. You see, this is where we're starting. Like you said, you go a little chalky to start, and now you have a couple seeds. You have a 6 over a 3 here, a 5 over a 4.
Well, I mean, I think if you think about this as far as just like, what does Vegas tell you, and using your math skills to figure this out? Do we want to take like Grand Canyon as a 20-point underdog over Iowa, or would you rather take USC as maybe USC is going to be a 3-point underdog here? And that's an upset I'm far more comfortable with rather than picking like a 14-3 upset. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. I mean, there's leverage. It's just, there's a lot of elements in DFS, and we only have an hour here. But if you're looking for basic concepts, you and me did a show, kind of an overarching theme that you can check out, certainly on the Awesemo shows. You just go into YouTube and get it. All right, we got Oregon, Iowa. I think it's going to be a very competitive game. Ultimately, I think the Hawkeyes get it done. Where do you lean here?
I actually disagree with you. And Iowa's the team I think is really, really vulnerable as a 2 seed. They don't play defense very well, and they have one particular weakness, and that's three-point shooting. They rank 229 in three-point defense. Oregon shoots the three extremely well. All 5 of their starters shoot at least 37% from three. They have a couple starters that shoot over 40%. Ucla is going to get his. Oregon is not the tallest team, but having those shooters is very important. And if you think Iowa gets past Oregon here, I wouldn't fault you for picking that. Iowa struggled with a lot of bigs as well. Kofi Coburn scored 26 points in 24 minutes against them. They've given up a bunch of production to guys like Livers and Franz Wagner and other big men in the Big Ten. So they're a very vulnerable 2 seed, one I do not see going very far.
All right, let's do it. Let's roll. Chad is trusting you. No one wants to listen to me, so it's all on you here. We're going with the Ducks. See, Pac-12 love. You weren't lying, man. I feel a lot better about when we get to Colorado. All right, Zags, Creighton. Does the run end for the boys here?
For the boys, I'm assuming you're saying Creighton, and the run does end.
Okay, the run ends. Zags into the Elite Eight. Battle of the Pac-12. These teams have obviously met. What happens here?
So this is it's an interesting spot because Mobley, his size is a big mismatch against Oregon, who doesn't have great size, but Oregon shoots the ball so well here. I think this is going to be one of the most competitive games if it ends up coming out this way. I love Oregon as just an overall buy low team, just because they've played most of the season without their starter. So I still think the Ducks are a team that can get to the Elite Eight.
All right, let's go. Ducks, Zags, Gonzaga too good.
Gonzaga is too good.
Gonzaga is too good. All right, so one region down, and we've got the Zags in there. Let's go down to the East, where Michigan is the number 1 seed. They get the play-in game. They get Mount St. Mary's or Texas Southern. That does not matter. Anything you want to say on the 2 made-up schools before we go to Michigan?
I bet the under. I love the under.
Okay.
Mount St. Mary's plays incredibly slow. Neither team can score, and they both play solid defense.
I still believe that Bryant is going to win the game against Mount St. Mary's. My heart was ripped out in that game multiple times. Not happening. Michigan, of course, in this spot. Next game, one of the best of the board, LSU Saint Bonaventure. I've been going back and forth. I really like the Bonnies. I think they're extremely impressive. Fan of Lofton. What do you do with this game?
I like LSU in this spot. I just think their overall competition is going to be too much for Saint Bonaventure here. If you look at the schedule Saint Bonaventure has played, they haven't exactly played a murderer's row of competition whatsoever. They played a number of quad 1 games. They actually went 4-2 in those games, but you're looking at Richmond, St. Louis, VCU, Davidson, St. Louis again. It's just not the best competition overall. And then you look at LSU playing in the SEC, of course, the game they gave Alabama. They're just more athletic, and they have 3 superstars in Cam Thomas, Trendon Watford, and Javonte Smart that should be able to overwhelm here.
Yeah, Tom, I mean, he's unbelievable. Very impressive. Good team. Really competitive game. We'll go with you. We'll go with LSU. All right, here we go. Colorado, another Pac-12 team against Georgetown, who, of course, went on the epic run in the Big East. I think the Buffaloes absolutely roll them. Another game I've already bet.
I think they absolutely roll them too. I could not believe this opened around 4.5. You're getting it around 5. Yeah, I have it at 5 too. I love Colorado in this spot. We've seen them knock off the best teams in the Pac-12. We've also seen them lose a couple pretty important games like against Cal, but they beat USC a pair of times. And Georgetown was a sub 500 team heading into the Big East tournament. I am not buying their resurgence whatsoever.
Colorado, incredibly good free throw shooting team, 82%. McKinley Wright, one of my
number 2 in the country, right?
Yeah, them and Oral Roberts are just fantastic. You boys. All right. Florida State, UNCG, Knowles, Cruz here?
I think so. UNCG is a team. They have only played 1 quad 1 game all year. They are very, very bad at shooting. They shoot exactly 30% from 3, and FSU defends you well for basically from everywhere, but particularly in the interior. So they're not getting any easy matchups against FSU.
All right, easy enough. We'll save some time with Florida State. BYU against the winner of Michigan State and UCLA. Does it matter who they play, or do you like a specific team in the playing game?
I think BYU could get upset by both of these teams, but I think the more dangerous team that would face them would be the Spartans, just because they have some size. BYU has 1 tall player in Matt Harms. He's 7'3", but he only plays about 20 minutes per game. He's just not a guy that can play a full complement of minutes. When he's not on the floor, they are very vulnerable to other teams that do have size. And we've seen them drop a number of quad one games this year, got swept by Gonzaga. So I think this is a spot where maybe we could look to the upset. I would love it if it was the Spartans.
Okay, so yeah, we can click the winner of the playing game there. By the way, this is just for you. Matt Harms, transfer from Purdue. That is who I was thinking of. I'm an idiot. Before the show, we were talking about that. That's where he went. He's on BYU now.
He had to transfer when they got Edie.
Yeah, well, you can only have 5 guys on a team at a time for Purdue. They hit the quota. All right, here we go. My game, Texas, Abilene Christian. Floor is yours. I will say I believe Abilene Christian can win this game. First in the country in forcing turnovers. They've played some competitive games. Are you with me, or do you think ultimately talent wins out?
I do think talent wins out with Texas, but I think this game is much closer than the spread might indicate. Like you said, Abilene Christian, good turnover team. I am a little concerned with the guards on Texas. The strength of that team is really their front court with all the bigs they have in Jericho Sims and Greg Brown. So this does set up as a stylistic matchup that's very difficult for Texas. But I do think the level of competition here is drastically different. But is there something else you saw with Abilene Christian that you really liked?
No, I mean, it's just a combination that obviously in the Southland, they've beat up on teams. I do think that they have the advantage in the backcourt, particularly on the defensive end. They're really stout defensively. They've played Arkansas. They played Texas Tech close. It's just a solid team. And I think Texas is not as good as others. So we're going to go with Texas here, and that is the prudent move. Keep an eye on that game. I was shocked to see it open. I was hoping to get like 11 or 12. Spread is not. They're giving them some love in the betting market, which I guess makes me feel better. But all right, Connecticut, they got, they righted the ship. They got healthy against the Terps, 7-10. Where do we go?
Maryland's such a difficult team to evaluate. There's a couple teams here I think that are really difficult. It's mainly the back end of the Big Ten that made it here just because that conference is so strong. So when you look at teams like Maryland, you look at teams like Rutgers, they played a bunch of quad one games. They have bad records in those conferences, but that's because you're facing a Michigan and Illinois and some of these teams multiple times a year that you just don't have a lot of chance of winning. For Maryland, they're very much the victim of this. If you're looking at them as a team, they're very weak against opposing three-point shooting teams. And there's one huge component to this game, and we got news on it today. It's RJ Cole. So UConn's not the best three-point shooting team in the country. Book Knight, their stud, actually is just shooting 30% there, but RJ Cole shooting 38%. He was questionable for the game, and it looks like he's cleared concussion protocol. So getting him back is huge, like UConn in the spot.
All right. Going with UConn, Bama crushes Iona. I think that's a given. I assume you agree.
I like Bama against the spread.
All right, there you go. I think it's like 18. All right, so going back up to the top, we've got Michigan. We've got LSU. Really good test here. Wolverines first number one out, or do they move on?
I think they move on. It's going to be tough stylistically. I don't think they make it to the Final Four. I do think they get upset along the way. A player like Trendon Watford could really give them problems, especially now that they don't have Livers. But Franz Wagner is still their best defender, I think, and he should be able to, I think, create a lot of problems for a team like LSU.
All right, going with Michigan. Here we go. Colorado, Florida State. I'm sure no surprise to people. I like Colorado. Where are you?
I like Colorado as well. Florida State, they've been a little risky with turnovers this year. And a veteran team like Colorado with someone like McKinley Wright, you already mentioned their free throw shooting. If this game comes down to free throws or it's close, Colorado's going to put them away. Both of these teams have been extremely volatile this season. So I very much could see it go either way. I think you'd get Florida State as a small favorite if this is how this game actually played out. They would probably be favored by a couple points.
God, that could be expensive. All right, we got the play-in game against Texas. Does Texas move on against whoever that is?
You would not have done this, would you?
Well, I don't know what I want to do there. Because like I said, this is where I'm going to get myself into trouble. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do on the bottom of the East. It's very difficult, but where do you go?
I would go Texas.
Okay.
Both UCLA, Michigan State, whoever moves on, those are two extremely volatile teams as well. We have Michigan State here, I believe. Texas, with their front court, they can certainly take advantage of the Spartans.
Okay, good. I don't mind that. I mean, ultimately, if you get past Abilene Christian, you're legit. So there we go.
Abilene Christian might be better than those teams.
Don't hate. God, they're going to get buried. UConn, Bama, Herb Jones, and co. Where are we going? Tied?
I think we have to. I don't think we can bet against this Alabama team right now. They literally have 4 players on the court at any given time that can basically play every single position. Herb Jones, He's enormous, and he can still bring the ball up the court. Just a very versatile scorer. He's some of the best rates in the country. Then you combine that with shooter Shackelford. John Petty can get it done. They also have 3 bigs. They all rotate in, but they're all good size, at least 6'8" there.
All right, we got 4 teams left in this region. Michigan, Colorado. What happens?
I think Michigan gets it done. I think Michigan gets bounced before the Final Four, but I don't think it's here.
Okay, so we'll go with the Wolverines. I'm undecided there, I'll be honest, but that's neither here nor there. Texas, Bama, Crimson Tide again.
Yeah, which is why I like Alabama so much here. I think their path is one of the easiest for the 2 seeds. So you get Iona. They're just going to absolutely demolish Iona. They are not one of the stronger 2 seeds. I think Grand Canyon's a better 2 seed. I think Oral Roberts is a significantly better 2 seed. I think you could even debate Cleveland State. Then in the second round, you have potentially Maryland coming out of the Big Ten, or UConn, a team that struggles shooting. Then in the Elite 8, you're looking at the winner of Abilene Christian, Texas, a very limited team, BYU, and the winner of the play-in game. All those teams have significant weaknesses, and we can't say that about some of the other regions.
And then I assume you've mentioned, you alluded, Michigan's getting bounced. Got to be here. So we got Bama in the Final Four.
That is how I have it, yes.
I like it. I definitely can see that. I am down with Bama. All right. Here we go. Top right. We're going to the South. That is Baylor's region. Chat, if you have questions, certainly you can hit up Matt on Twitter. You get it in the Slack with us at Awesemo. We're going to be answering questions. We have live before locks Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We've got you covered there, but we're going to keep breezing through here because we've only got an hour. Baylor, Hartford, who took out UMass Lowell, the juggernaut that is. So we've got Alabama, we've got Gonzaga. Let's see what happens on the right side. I assume we're clicking in Baylor and working from there.
We are. I think Hartford might be the worst team that made it in.
That is confirmed. Seen them play. Once was enough. Sorry. North Carolina, Wisco. Wisco's been a pain point for me all year. They're going to get whipped on the boards. Is that going to be enough? Where do you got in this 8-9?
So I was actually talking with my friends Steve and Gavin yesterday, and they brought a stat up to me that I wasn't aware of as far as Wisconsin. Since February, they're 4-7, and since January, the only opponents they've beaten are Nebraska, Penn State, and Northwestern. I think the bigs, the athletic bigs for North Carolina, might be giving guys like Nate Reavers and Micah Potter some issues down low. So I do favor North Carolina here.
Hating on the school once again, but I am with you there. North Carolina, just too much size. All right, we've got Nova, who is walking wounded against the one-loss Winthrop team that I think everyone is in love with. I'm not really there, to be honest. What do you do in this game?
I'm not there either. I like Winthrop as a team. I wish they had a slightly better draw here. Winthrop has played absolutely nobody this year, and they're at a huge size disadvantage against Jeremiah Robinson Earl. He's an absolute monster big, and I think even without Gillespie here, they can just feed it down low to him, and Winthrop is going to have no answer for Villanova down low. I also don't think Villanova is going to be, I don't think Winthrop is going to be able to play with the pace they want. I think Nova slows them down here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm with you. More being healthy-ish helps, even without Gillespie. Purdue, North Texas. Too much size for the Boilermakers?
It's a really interesting matchup. As far as the 4-13 seeds go, I wish North Texas had a different draw here. I think they very much could upset a different team here. They play really slow. They play really efficient basketball, particularly on defense, but they're another team that just doesn't have a lot of size. And then you have Trevion Williams on the other side, an absolute monster for Purdue. The main concern I have with the Boilermakers is they don't always play him consistent minutes. It's not always due to foul issues either, but when he's playing, they are one of the most efficient offenses in the country. One of the few teams that's actually top 25 in both offensive and defensive efficiency.
I like it with Purdue. Before we move on, I want to say this. We got chat, a lot of people in here, and this is extremely important. You have been doing projections all year for college basketball, and you're certainly doing them for the tournament. You can find them at awesemo.com behind the paywall. You can find our articles, our rankings, everything that we've got, the tools for a package. It's just $29.95 for the entire tournament, all the rounds. So you get in there, awesemo.com/join, sign on up. They have a $25K to first, $100,000 tournament on DraftKings for this. A lot of money up for grabs, Matt, and I know your projections are going to be clutch there. So again, $29.95. Get on in. It is absolutely worth the money. Firmly believe that. We'd love to have you on board for the tournament. Texas Tech, Utah State. I don't know about this game. I think I may lean to the Aggies here, but I don't think you're with me.
I am with you.
Oh, okay. Let's go. Beautiful. Shouldn't have said that then.
I think Utah State was a risky team to put in the tournament. I think other teams may have had a better claim like Louisville, but as far as overall stylistics go in this matchup, Utah State's going to be a problem for Texas Tech. Both of these teams have been disappointing. Utah State was 20-8. They were 2-5 in quad one games. But on the other side, Texas Tech was 4-10 in quad one games. They were 9-8 in conference play in the Big 12. They're a team that also has no size. Their tallest starter is Marco Santos Silva. He's 6'7". He also can't keep his hands to himself, and he's just an incessant fouler. He averages just north of 20 minutes per game. On the other side, you have one of the best big men in the country, in Nemias Queta, who averages a double-double per game, a big 7-footer who's just going to absolutely demolish this Texas Tech team inside.
All right, so we're going with Utah State. We're going to change it up. We are going with the Aggies there. I like it. Next game, Arkansas and Colgate, first to 90 wins. Arkansas will be the first to 90. Is that correct?
Yeah, Arkansas is going to demolish Colgate. Colgate's only played 15 games in the Patriot League. They haven't played any good competition.
Played Army twice. Don't hate on the Black Knights, who got Bellarmine in the fake tournament. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Gators, Hokies. I'm not a Virginia Tech alumni, but I do kind of root for them, and I don't like Florida. I think this is a pretty easy 10-7 for me. I like Virginia Tech.
They should be the 7 here. They should be the 7. They hold efficiency advantages both on the offensive side and the defensive side. If you look at who Virginia Tech has played and struggled with this year, it's been some of the teams that have elite big men in the ACC. Florida does not have that. They have Colin Castleton, but he's not going to be enough to overcome Aluma and Mutz and even Tyrese Radford, one of the best rebounding guards in the country.
No doubt about it. Let's do it. Oral Roberts, Ohio State. I do want to say Oral Roberts has the #1 scorer in the country. I think the game could be somewhat competitive, but ultimately Ohio State wins out.
I think so too, but this is going to be a really fun game. A game I have the over in. Oral Roberts is a team I think can cover this spread. They've actually played some significant competition this year. Now, they had games against Missouri, Wichita State, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. They lost them all, but they kept a bunch of those within single digits, which means they can hang with some really good competition here. Don't expect them to beat Ohio State, but this Oral Roberts team is really good at shooting. They shoot 41% from three. So if you're looking at a potential 15-2 upset, if you're playing something like a huge bracket with hundreds of thousands of people, I think this is a vulnerable 15-2 matchup, but Ohio State just holds too many advantages.
Okay. Baylor, North Carolina. Does Scott Drew find a way to screw this up?
I don't think so.
Okay.
North Carolina cannot shoot. So for all of their advantages over Wisconsin, Caleb Love takes a ton of shots, and he might be one of the worst three-point shooters in the country. He's shooting lower than 26%.
Harsh, but accurate. Nova, Purdue. I certainly lean to Purdue in this spot.
I think Purdue is one of the strongest 4 seeds we've seen recently.
All right. So we've got Baylor. We've got Purdue. We've got Utah State versus Arkansas. Interesting matchup, different styles, certainly not like the track meet we'll see early. Can they stop them, though? I mean, Arkansas does hold the advantage to me.
Yeah, I want to talk about Arkansas for a little bit here and how strong they are as a 3 seed. They're a team that lost 6 games this year. It all came to elite competition in the SEC, and they're a team that's battled injuries all season long. So Justin Smith was out for a period of time. In the SEC tournament, they didn't have Jalen Williams, who's really emerged as a strong minute getter for this team down the stretch. He was playing upper 20s in minutes before we don't know why he missed. It was called an undisclosed absence. There were some rumors it was COVID, but ultimately we don't know. He's going to play in the tournament, and his size is huge for Arkansas. With him back, with a fully healthy roster, I think they're poised to make a run.
All right, so certainly you've got him over Utah State, and I like that. I don't want to say I want to set up the Ohio State-Arkansas matchup. Not so fast, my friend, to quote old Lee Corso. Virginia Tech, can they knock them off here?
So Virginia Tech's another team they've regained some players. So Tyrese Radford suspended, again, a very good rebounding guard. Virginia Tech does have some size. So Ohio State, their strength is their front court. They have a bunch of good big men down there, but primarily EJ Liddell. But this Virginia Tech team is also very strong on the interior. With Aluma, he's 6'9". You have Mutz, he's 6'7". And again, Radford, really strong rebounder. This team is very good at offensive rebounds overall. So I do think they're going to give Ohio State issues. Ohio State is one of the weaker 2 seeds. Again, we're talking about the Big Ten here, and we look at this team on defense. They're also pretty bad against defending the 3, where they rank 192. Seeing that for a team that's a number 2 seed is pretty egregious here. And we have both Iowa and Ohio State with some of these defensive metrics. I think Ohio State wins the game, but I do think they get clipped similar to Iowa.
Yeah, I would like that. Vulnerable seeds, and it's just a very difficult line. The 2 seeds to me were the hardest. I know you really like Bama, and I'm with you there, but some of these other ones I do think are vulnerable. One of the games potentially of the tournament, I hope we get to see it, would be Baylor-Purdue to me. All the guards for Baylor, the bigs for Purdue, the zone for Baylor. How does this play out? Who moves on?
I think Baylor's toughest test is going to come against teams that have strong interior presences. So Trevion Williams fits this. Baylor's strength is their guard play. They're the best 3-point shooting team in the country. But you look to their front court, they're led by players like Mark Vital and then a bunch of players that are situational guys like Jordan Ucla. None of them can stand up against a Trevion Williams. Not to mention some of the young players for Purdue have really regained into form. You have a strong guard play in Jaden Ivey. So I do think this Baylor team gets upset. We've seen them just not the same since their COVID pause. They've dropped a couple games now. I do think Purdue is capable of this, and I think they could be the team that upsets Baylor.
All right, here we go. We got a 4 seed making a run here. And I have a feeling, just kind of knowing what you're talking about, and I know you really believe in this team, that you're going to be having them playing the 3 seed in Arkansas.
I do think so.
All right, good. Get these. Sorry, Big Ten. So we got certainly a random, not a random, but an against the grain Final Four contributor here. Is it Purdue or is it Arkansas?
Arkansas is a team I think that gets it done. They're a complete team. I think everybody in the top of this bracket has a weakness. So you look at Purdue, for some reason they don't play Trevion Williams all the minutes. I think Purdue could lose any of the games along the way here if Trevion Williams is missing time for whatever reason. However, if he plays 30 minutes, this team is almost unstoppable. He nearly single-handedly just demolished Ohio State by himself in the Big Ten tournament. Nova obviously has weaknesses with the Gillespie injury. North Carolina and Wisconsin are both limited teams. Wisconsin hasn't beaten a notable opponent since 2020. And Baylor, we talked about their weaknesses. It's mainly on the interior.
All right. Let's see. Arkansas. I can get down with this. All right. One region left, then we'll get to the Final Four, then we'll bounce on out of here. But we got shows on shows. Like I said, I'll be back 9 o'clock talking golf, Honda Classic. Spoiler alert, I'd rather be doing this because this is bracketology week. Illinois and Drexel. Drexel knocked out Elon. I was rooting for Elon. No respect. Clicking the Illini. Let's get that out of the way. All right, everyone, the game everyone's talking about. Loyola Chicago, who got hosed as a seed. Georgia Tech, who to me got equally, if not more, hosed as a seed. 8-9. Where do you go in this matchup?
I like Georgia Tech here. So Georgia Tech has 3 elite players on their team. They're going to be facing a very strong Loyola Chicago team, a Loyola Chicago team that plays a lesser schedule. They beat up on an injured Drake without Hemphill, without Roman Penn for some of those games. Other than that, they have wins against Wisconsin. We talked about how vulnerable that Wisconsin team is. Other than that, Loyola Chicago hasn't really played a significant level of competition. On the other hand, Georgia Tech has. And they've been a fantastic team all year, aside from the beginning of the year where they dropped 3 of their first 5 games. They were playing this, I don't even know how to describe it. There was a lot of COVID issues in the beginning of the year. Georgia Tech was doing non-contact practices. Their coach Passner eventually decides to get rid of that, rightly so, after they were 2-3, I believe was their record to start the year. Since then, they've really regained into form. Obviously, they win the ACC. Moses Wright is going to primarily be defending Krutwig, who plays all over the place, but that's a very difficult matchup for him. And then if you think Krutwig and this Loyola team can shut down Moses Wright, you still have 2 elite scorers, especially from 3, in Jose Alvarado and Michael DeVoe, both of whom shoot over 40% from 3. So just a very difficult stylistic matchup for Loyola Chicago. This is the best game of the first round. I wish this team, whoever wins this matchup, didn't have to play Illinois in the second.
Yeah, I wish they played Baylor. That would be fantastic. Do you know real quick who, because didn't Georgia Tech is down a player, but we don't know who that is? Question mark.
Honestly, from the reading of that article, I think it might be a personnel staff member.
Okay. Well, that would be better, obviously, for them. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see if that line moves. Tennessee against the Oregon State Beavers, who somehow ran through the Pac-12 to get here. Tennessee is in a free-for-all. Upset 12-5, or are you going with the Vols?
The Vols.
Okay, Tennessee. Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham against Liberty, who plays extremely slow, very methodical. Does talent win out, or does Liberty, who won a game a couple years ago, I believe, do they get it done?
Liberty's a really interesting team. They're another team I wish they'd gotten a different draw. So there's some weaker teams I think they could have found themselves playing. They win the Atlantic Sun. They actually had some pretty good competition. They lost to Purdue. They lost to Missouri, both very good teams. They shoot 39% from three, which is obviously amazing. And when teams shoot that high, it has the recipe for clipping better teams like this. They also shoot 47.5% of their shots from the three-point line. So they're just going to take a ton of threes, slow down the game. And when you have slower paced teams, it creates a little more volatility in the matchups. However, they're facing Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is going to be the number one pick in the NBA draft. He could literally just take over this game himself and bounce Liberty.
Yeah, Oklahoma State's been very impressive. They've dealt with a lot of just injuries in different situations. I'm a fan of Likely. I just like that team. I do love the A-Sun, though. That's North Florida's conference. Neither here nor there. San Diego State, Cuse, can they just shoot over the zone? They are a good shooting team.
I think they can. Jordan Shackle and Terrell Gomez both shoot at least 42% from three.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem. I'm with you. I'm going with the Aztecs in that one. Next game, West Virginia, Morehead State. Should have been Belmont. Couldn't get it done. Too much Mountaineers, too much Bob Huggins.
Yes, West Virginia is going to slaughter Morehead State. Morehead State's played a couple teams this year of notable competition, and they've just gotten absolutely slaughtered in all of them. Morehead State is horrific with their turnovers as well. They're outside the top 300.
That seems bad. All right, Clemson, Rutgers. This game is just a weird game. I honestly, of all the unknowns, really don't have a feel. Not impressed with either of these teams, but where do we go here?
This is the worst game of the first round.
I didn't want to say it, so I just let you say things like that. Good job.
Yeah, Very nice. You knew I was going to say that. But Rutgers is a team similar to Maryland. They're the back end of the Big Ten that made the tournament. They have a bunch of very difficult games on their profile, a couple notable wins, but they're mostly losing those games. They're a team that shoots 31% from three, which is just downright horrific. They're a terrible free throw shooting team. So I think Clemson, although they're limited themselves, they do have one very good player, Namir Sims. As long as he stays out of foul trouble, I think they can get it done against Rutgers.
And finally, the last game of the first round, Houston against Cleveland State. Yeah, how bad is it going to be?
Cleveland State shouldn't be in the tournament, but they ended up winning their conference after there were a couple upsets in the Horizon League. Houston has perhaps the easiest 15-2 matchup.
Yeah, all those games went to like triple overtime on the same day. Poor Wright State. All right, let's go up to the top of this bracket. We've got Illinois, Georgia Tech. Anything happen here, or just Illini too much AO, too much Cockburn?
I think Illinois is too much. A really sad draw for Loyola Chicago or Georgia Tech. Two teams I thought could make a run if they had a slightly better draw.
Agree. Oklahoma State, Tennessee. What's the stat? Just real quick, what is the status of Fulkerson? He got cheap shotted. He broke his
face. You saw it, right?
Oh, I saw it. I had a bet on that game. Bad.
So he had facial surgery on Sunday. He had some fractures in his face, but he also has a concussion. Them calling him day-to-day suggests to me that the concussion's the big worry here. I think he basically will have to pass protocol. It's a really quick turnaround for him. But either way, I think they are at a disadvantage against OK State, a team that's developed some depth throughout the year. Obviously, they have Cade. Tennessee's really good on defense, but they've been a streaky team all season long. I don't think Fulkerson will play, but you never know.
Okay. Yeah, either way, too much. I'll go with the Cowboys. This would be I don't want to say probably. I think it's very likely, though, that we get this matchup. I want to see this game. San Diego State against West Virginia. How does this play out?
This is a really interesting one. So if you look at West Virginia on defense, their actual weakness is in the interior. That doesn't exactly bode super well against San Diego State, a team that doesn't have a ton of size down there. Mensah's really their only player of size, and he plays limited time on the floor. With the star power between Derek Culver and Miles McBride, as long as Derek Culver is not in foul trouble, I think the Mountaineers could get this done.
Okay, Mountaineers moving on. And Clemson's, I can't see them hanging with Houston, correct?
No, Houston has probably the best draw for a 2 seed. We already talked about not liking Iowa or Ohio State a ton. I love Bama's draw, and I love Houston's draw.
Yeah, I wish these, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a different show for a different time. Illinois, Oklahoma State. Can Cade Cunningham march them on, or is it just too much again? Too much AO?
Cade does shoot 40% from three, scores everywhere, but Dosunmu, Coburn, it's too much for Illinois. Illinois is also deep. They run a 7-8 man rotation. They can put any of those guys on the floor and have success.
Too much. Illinois moving on. And then we would get the 3 and the 2. West Virginia and Houston could be a rock fight type game. I don't really know how that would play out. Where would you go?
I think it would be interesting. Houston's a slower paced team, but West Virginia has basically been playing in track meets during the Big 12. They've also dropped some really close games, a couple losses to OK State towards the end of the year. Houston's a really strong team. They're strong across the board. They don't have one individual player who has enormous size, but basically their entire starting five is like 6'5" outside of Marcus Sasser, which is going to give problems for teams like West Virginia just because they can defend almost anybody and switch their defense a lot. They're also a really good rebounding team. I know that conference isn't really a strong rebounding conference overall, so I don't want to put too much stock into that. But West Virginia, with a defensive weakness on the interior, I think Houston can get it done. So
we would get the matchup that the bracket kind of anticipated. We would get number 1 seed Illinois, number 2 seed Houston. Who ultimately would join the other 3 in the Final Four?
Illinois.
Okay. Just rolling, wins the Big Ten and keeps it rolling. The Final Four is set. We've got 4 teams remaining here. Before we dive into that, I just want to say one more time again, tournament is rolling on. If you're doing a bracket, well, we're trying to help you here. If you're betting these games, we're going to have you covered. We've got write-ups. Me and Matt did expert survey on each region, talking about some of our favorite things, upset picks, things of that nature, posted on the site. Slack is going to be popping. We will be answering your questions there. And then on the DFS side, the projections, your articles, your daily write-up, all part of this package, $29.95 for the entire tournament. Certainly worth the money if you're putting some down on these things. We'd love to have you as part of the community. So if you have any questions, you hit us up on Twitter. You give us a follow. Why not? Helps build the count. Gotta say it. All right. So we've got our 4 teams. Which one do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about Arkansas and Illinois? Let's start there. We'll switch it up. We're going to go Arkansas and Illinois. Who wins that side of the bracket?
I think it's Illinois. So all the positives we said about Arkansas, really they're a team rounding into form this time of year. They've dealt with injuries, and I think that's really why they've dropped some games. But we've seen them beat some of the best competition in the SEC, including teams like Alabama on the other side, a team that I'm particularly bullish on just from a talent standpoint. But looking at this Illinois team, they have experience, both Coburn, Dosunmu. They're returning starters from the beginning of the season. They've been in big games before, and they've been playing in big games throughout the tournament. They have the strength inside with Coburn. They have the elite guard in Dosunmu. They have solid depth with players like Curbelo coming off the bench even that can get it done in situational spots here. So even though Arkansas is healthier, I think Illinois is just too much.
On the other side, you've mentioned how much, you love the way Bama plays. They've got everything you want. We're going to find out. I mean, the test is, Gonzaga rolled a bunch of good teams, but it was very early in the year. Then they settled into conference play, really haven't been tested as much. They get BYU a couple times. St. Mary's isn't even good anymore. Portland ain't walking through that door. Bama will be an extreme test. Can they knock them off, or does the Zags roll into the national championship undefeated?
So I want to try to poke holes in Gonzaga. Before we do that, I think Gonzaga wins the game. But I think if a team is going to beat Gonzaga, this is the recipe. So they played some really good teams to begin the year. Like you mentioned, they had games against Kansas, West Virginia, and Iowa. Those were in the first 4 games. The lowest score they allowed was 82 points in those contests. We had Gonzaga just outpacing all of those teams. They beat West Virginia by 5. They beat Iowa by 11. And they beat Kansas by 12, but they allowed each of those opponents to score at least 82 points. That's a ton of production on defense. Then you have guards like Jalen Suggs who get in foul trouble sometimes. This Gonzaga team, for everything they're good at, they're not exactly the deepest team in the country. So if they get in foul trouble with one of these studs in Timmy or Kispert or Jalen Suggs, I think that is the door that could open for a team like Alabama or maybe somebody on the way there to potentially clip this team. Extremely unlikely, but I think if we're trying to poke holes, that's how it would get done.
So if someone knocks them off, we've only got a couple minutes left, but I do want to probe this a little more. Do you think the game is ultimately played in like the 60s or 70s, or do you think someone outscores them?
That's why I kind of like a team like Alabama, because it needs to be a team that can keep up here. So the teams that have had success, against this Gonzaga team. They're fast teams. Like West Virginia plays with pace. Iowa plays with some good pace, and they're a good scoring team. They also face Virginia, a very slow team. Gonzaga still put up their normal 98 points, but Virginia only scored 75. That's a good score, but it's not in the same range as some of the faster teams they played. So I think a team like Alabama, who does play extremely fast, they have good size everywhere, they could be somebody that gets it done. I don't think it's likely, but I think teams that are faster, playing with some pace and can score, might be able to do this.
So the final question before we get out here, the biggest one, does Gonzaga cap it off?
I think Illinois is too much.
Okay.
I think Illinois is too much.
God, poor Gonzaga again. Well, you make friend of the show, Jordan Frank, quite happy, fellow Awesemo member. And if you had to predict a final score, the total on that game may be up there. Do you think they outscore them? Did they land in the 80s, something like that? Or how would they knock off Gonzaga here?
Gonzaga is scoring well over 80 points a game this year. Illinois also plays with pretty good pace. They're an elite scoring offense too. I think they're a team that could certainly score up there too. So I would put the over-under in that game at least at like 162.
Yeah, that's Colgate territory. So where it is, Illinois, the national championship, they roll through the Big Ten, they roll through this bracket. I like it. I can get on board with this. This may look like the bracket I end up submitting, but man, this was fun. I would love to get more in depth, but you know what? Again, we've got you covered here behind the glass. So if you guys have any questions, we hope you enjoyed this. This was a blast. Hit that like button on your way out. And if you have more questions, hit us up on Twitter. We're always around. Matt does a great job. I'm just there doing some golf, complaining, the usual things that I do. But this is a good time. Again, thanks to Monkey Knife Fight. Get over there and play in that free bracket. Sign up for our package. I know you guys will enjoy it. Good luck. Enjoy March Madness. I will see you in an hour for a golf show, and me and Matt will talk to you guys soon.